Everybody, welcome to our webinar today. So happy to have you all. I see you're all coming in. Thanks for all your time this week. Appreciate it. And I'm super excited for today's webinar. Really excited because this has been planned for a long time, as Noel and I were sort of joking earlier. So happy to have Noel Asmar of Noel Asmar Uniforms and her team, Allison and Andrew, and they're going to talk a little bit about hospitality lifecycle and recycling, and this really not only important, but timely and progressive plan of action that Noel has really engineered and put forth into our industry. And really kudos to you, Noel, for doing this work and bringing this forward and championing this initiative.
Thanks, Joanne. And thanks, Megan, for helping to organize these amazing webinars.
Yes.
Well, hi, everybody. It's been incredible having these webinars just to stay so connected to everyone. And it's been interesting to see, one of the biggest impacts of COVID, obviously for our team, other than our industry being so down, is all this extra work everybody's doing to work on new SOPs and how our new sanitation guidelines are sort of dictating our pre-opening success and our success with our teams. And while we already have enough to think about when we think about, what do we need to do today to open up our properties successfully and safely, I think this is actually really timely. If we start looking at how we are sourcing all these new products that we actually need to be spending money before we even open today because of all of these new sanitation requirements, how do we do it with Mother Earth in mind? And this is a subject that came to the forefront for our team in 2019 when we started to ask questions and find out, at the end of the life cycle of a uniform, what do you do with it? And what are spas and hotels doing with uniforms when they can no longer be worn? And the response was quite across the board, but for the most common response was, well, we will donate them. And, often you have your own logos on them and you donate them and you think that you're doing your part, but actually you're just passing the puck. I know that sounds very Canadian, but it's in fact not taking care of our business, and it's not ensuring that our garments, our towels, our linens, our robes are actually getting recycled. So 90% of the time, they're in fact ending up in the landfill. And so we don't think about those things. And when we look at how we're going to reopen currently with getting back to business post-COVID, this is a really opportunistic time to think about how we're going to source some of these new materials. And as we look to discard the materials that we do have in our current operations, what are we going to do with them? And I'm going to go through a presentation, some things that might surprise you. And really, what is the impact on Earth? What is the impact on our environment when it comes to textiles? And it's probably more well known on the fashion side, but if you think about how textile reliant we are in spas and hotels to carry out hospitality. We are sheets in hotel rooms, blankets and robes in every facet of our services, including pool decks, towels, etc. So you can imagine nobody's actually tracking that. So we're actually running under the radar. And one of the objectives of Hospitality Lifecycle is to try to track it and track the success of properties that are going to take this as one of their core values and how you're going to implement a recycling program within your property. So I'm going to share my screen. Can everybody, Joanna, is my volume okay?
Your volume's great.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh my.
Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, super. Okay.
Yes.
So Hospitality Lifecycle is a concept. It's an initiative that we launched in 2019. We actually launched it at the Global Wellness Summit in Singapore in November, just before COVID hit. And the idea is to talk about ways and look for solutions that will enable our hospitality properties and our spas and resorts to find recycling plants that will actually take your yarns. Let's see. Oh, Joanna. There we go. So I thought I'd just do a fun fact. So if we just look at the PPE right now that's going to come into our industry, all of the masks, all of the gloves, etc. And we have an opportunity right now to think about, do we want to take a sustainable approach to all this PPE and really stick to that? Or are we just going to take what we can find, what we might actually think initially is more cost effective? So if we would look at some of the stats, and we just take our disposable masks versus reusable masks and imagine what our industry impact could be like. So we would have, say, 21,000 spas. Imagine on average 18 staff members per spa. So just shy of 400,000 employees in the US in May of 2019. If you had 2 masks per person that worked full time, so 250 days a year, you would be disposing 500 disposable masks per person. And if you took that average of 18 staff members over 21,000 spas, that's nearly 190 million disposable masks a year. It's kind of shocking. If you looked at offering the same number of masks, reusable, obviously not needing that same number, you had 10 reusable masks per person, assuming you'd have 50 washes of the mask per mask, that'd be 4 million masks a year compared to 190. And the point is, that's sustainable for the earth, that's more cost effective in the long run. So we need to do our math. It's good for the budget, it's good all around. And you have so many types of product lines that are coming into our operations today that we didn't have to look at before. I think this is a moment where us as an industry, we could be super proud if we can take a stance today and report on this a year from now. So that's how Hospitality Lifecycle was born initially before COVID. We knew that the textile industry has a massive annual carbon footprint, 1.2 billion tons of CO2. So imagine right now we have a pause. This is a bit of a reset button for us in our businesses. It's a reset button in our homes. But this is a time where we can reimagine what we want to look like when we reopen. And with aircraft being down and things shut down, obviously we will get back up on our feet. This is a really timely time to just implement your own sustainability initiatives into your operations if you have some time to think about that, in addition to the SOPs and new PPE products that you want to introduce into your property. So with Hospitality Lifecycle, the initial initiative is to really ensure that when your uniforms, robes, towels, etc. have expired, that you have someplace to go. And we found that most of the properties, the challenge with that is finding a recycling plant that would take mixed yarns. And what could you do with these yarns once they were recycled? And that, I'm sure for those of you that might have looked into this is the biggest challenge. So as a company, Noel Asmar Group, we have, as you know, some of you know, we do uniforms, we do pedicure bowls, and we also have a sports division. We do equestrian apparel. And in that division where you're using more yarns and different types of fabrics season over season, we found a really interesting company that could recycle yarns for us and even turn them into post-consumer product that could be used, insulation in the walls, stuffing in upholstery, etc. And that got really exciting. And then we said, okay, so if you have used towels, used robes, used uniforms, where are our challenges with being able to recycle them? And we found that not every recycling station would take it. So we partnered with D-Brand initially, and this is in Vancouver. and in Scottsdale, Arizona, to be able to test this. We use them because they have worked with airlines, UPS, and they are recycling all of their types of uniforms. What we have learned is that a couple of the things that we don't seem to be as concerned with in the hospitality industry, say that a UPS or an airline, a pilot's uniform, you may be more concerned about identity. So both reputational and a security risk associated with your logo being on a garment that gets either donated or ends up in the trash. So there are those types of concerns. So think about those things. The high turnover for beddings and linens per month, it's quite high. And although there are some secondary products you can make from those, aprons, cover-ups, washcloths, things like that, we still need a solution just due to the high volume. And without getting too deep into the types of the breakdowns of your fabrics, reach out to us if you have any concerns with the types of products you need to, or you're interested in recycling. And if it's not with us, with the group that we've teamed up with, the whole objective is just to recycle. So as we are learning, we're trying to share our learnings with our audience, with our community. Please reach out if you're interested, even if you just need information on how to start your own initiatives. And the key at the end is if we can collaborate on collecting data and be contributing to our industry and provide some actual facts of what our industry is doing to play a role in a more sustainable approach to sourcing, I think we'd all be really proud of that at the end of the day. So we're making it super easy. To get started, you just send us an email, info@hospitalitylifecycle.com or hospitalitylifecycle.com at Noel Asmar, whatever you can remember, or you go to our website and go to the top of our tab and it says To a Well World. Send us an email. We'll get you set up with a property ID through dbrand. You basically collect your items on a need-be basis. You don't need a huge container and to be sending, 1,000 pounds at a time, which we have learned is one of the requirements for a lot of these recycling stations. You box it up, put a property ID on it, label it, you ship it off. dbrand's center will weigh it. They will report back to you. You can get a certification that your products have been recycled properly, and you pay by the pound. So they receive it, they sort it, they separate yarns, they remove buttons, zippers, etc. They do all of this. And most of the companies that I've heard that have done this are spending between 55 and 65 cents a pound. So if you think about 1,000 pounds, it's only costing you about $650. I wish that there was some way, if anybody has any questions. Anybody have any questions? Joanne, is there anybody?
Yes. So Rihanna is asking a question. She's wondering if any of the major suppliers of linens to the spas regarding their recycling practices, obviously they've not come up with the answers. And are you spearheading any type of discussions with your co-vendors on this?
Yes, actually, Mia and Comfy Co is doing some testing right now with their linens with dbrand to see what we can also come up with as far as post-secondary product. And again, this is not a revenue center for us. This is an initiative. So if anybody would like to collaborate or would like some more information, please reach out. Please reach out.
Oh, well, Noel, I certainly think that in terms of our collaboration, we'd like to be able to offer this ability to sign up on the GSN website and help you be able to track how much stuff has been donated. So we can certainly make this available and encourage all of our members to sign up for this.
That would be great. A proud moment, right? That would be.
It's a proud moment. Yeah, we will put this as part of our pledge, obviously, since that's part of what we're trying to do as well. And this will just, further enhance our working partnership as well.
Love that. Thank you. Yes, you've been super supportive. I really appreciate that. And this is part of the mandate of the Green Spa Network.
Yes.
And I think it ties in beautifully. It's going to take some leadership. I will be really transparent and say I'm kind of surprised that there haven't been more properties that have taken advantage of it. And sometimes it does come down to cost. And I think through COVID, my personal experience share would be, I don't think we can afford not to do this. You know, the planet, we've seen the changes that have happened through COVID in our own personal lives. And it doesn't take much. I think it's our priorities, and as our priorities are shifting, of course, finances and budgets are important. But as I say, you know, with my team and with our design team, we really believe in quality. And if we, I think the part of the problems or challenge starts with sourcing well, sourcing really good product, know your product that you're buying. Um, the longer it stays with you, the more sustainable it is. And sometimes we just invest in something because it looks great, or you know, it fits the initial budget, and we don't do the long-term math like we showed in the, for example, the masks. It's kind of shocking, right, Joanne? Like if you look at the quantities there that we could be injecting just in the United States alone in our industry, potentially 200 million masks. That's not what we'd be proud of, but we would never stop to think about it. So I think more data. It's the data that guides us, right?
Yes, yes, and I'm wondering if this can this be used, you think, for a with a marketing message, especially with all the added waste that will come post COVID? That's coming from Anna Moyne, which I think the answer is probably yes, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, the vision for hospitality life cycle is A, that it takes off and people become interested and corporations become interested, and they will spend that 65 cents a pound to get their products recycled. And then the secondary, the more exciting part is, you know, the world of recycling used to be just dump recycling and it didn't cost you anything. Well, now we know that's not the case anymore. So I just wonder if there are ways to work with resource partners or suppliers or furniture makers, or like I said to LEC, what if we did some work together where you can fill the massage bed upholstery with recycled uniforms or recycled towels or whatever. I think that's really exciting. And I think that's the next step. So secondary products, pet beds for Imagine
right.
Weston, that's part of their branding. There's so many really cool things we could be doing.
Right. I totally agree. So Noel, talk to us a little bit about what have been the obstacles? Like, what do you see as the major obstacles in really having this initiative take legs through the various hotel brands and our other industry partners?
Honestly, it's only been budget.
Okay.
If they would could just donate it and they didn't have to spend anything, they're not used to having to spend money on recycling. So it's not allocated for in a capital spend. It's only budget. We've had incredible response from the groups. Incredible. They love the idea. They know it's important. But once it gets to, there is a cost associated with it.
Right.
It breaks some.
Right. So let me ask you some questions about the piece about how you reuse the materials. So when you send it to this third party sort of vendor, right? If they shred it and create like a filling from it, how does it then get back to the brands to use? Like, so is that in and out cost going to the brand?
Mm. So this the first step, we need properties to participate, because until we see the type of fabrics that are coming in, we don't know what we can do with it. So depending what gets sent in, and what why we partnered with D Brand is because they're flexible. And I'll give you a really interesting example. They work with Lululemon, and Lululemon recycles all of their yoga mats with them. And then they shred these yoga mats and use them in the equestrian industry as footing for riding rings.
Okay,
So then that
great.
gets sold, and it gets sold as a byproduct and helps to offset the costs of recycling. Okay.
Right.
So if you get all towels and it's pure cotton, it could be upcycled into another new product and not used as filler. So it just depends on what types of yarns are coming in.
Right.
And
Right.
that's why you want to partner with a group that, you know, the ugly side of recycling is often a lot of it gets incinerated.
Correct.
Product, nothing can happen, nothing they can do with
Right.
it. And
Right.
deep brand incinerates less than 5%.
Right. Well, I know there's a couple of places that take denim, for example, and use denim and they make it into either house insulation or it can also be stuffing and pillows. So I think we've got to try to isolate and find some of these suppliers who already have uses for shredded material and try to figure out a way to match them up with what we're trying to do.
Yeah, maybe reverse engineer it.
Yeah.
You know, look at the suppliers and use products that we'd like to develop and find those yarns and put a calling out there. Maybe we just reverse engineer it.
Right. And say who's making stuff out of recycled fabric. And let's go to them and say, well, here we have an industry that has all of this stuff. How do we work together?
And you know, while we have PPE on the mind, we've done some research to see which countries are doing a decent job at collecting PPE in a safe way. You know, we're already hearing, excuse me, on the news that you're finding rubber gloves on the ground and on the beaches already, and you're finding them on the streets. And if cities don't put properly identified garbage bins all across, you know, across their cities, they're not being properly collected. So I'm going to encourage everybody on this call to check in with your local authorities on how they are recommending the proper disposal of PPE product, disposable PPE product. And I recommend in a spa and in a hotel, you isolate a bin for these. Isolate a bin for your disposable gloves, it's plastics, that's one thing. Then you've got more of the paper type products for your disposable masks, the paper masks. We are going to put together a sheet and we will share it. If anybody wants our how-to guide for masks, please email us, info@noelasmar.com. And we're putting together a best practices guide for how to store your mask in between use and then how to recycle it. So our masks have a little metal band in the fabric. So you do a little snip, remove the metal band, recycle that with your metals, and then you can, as long as your mask is washed, and we all know that the coronavirus is killed with soap and water, wash your masks, and then eventually recycle them. So check with your local authorities though. Every city and state is mandating this in a different way, but it's horrific to think that they will all end up in the landfill.
Right. Oof.
No.
Yes.
So sustainability, you know, Andrew, do you want to unmute for a sec?
Yes, I hear him.
Yeah, here I am.
Yeah. Do you want to just talk a little, do you have about the return of investment really to take a sustainability approach?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are, and Rihanna was in the chat talking about ROI. I think it's so important. I think everybody would say, sure, let's do this, and then when it becomes a line item, it's so hard to justify it.
Right.
So it'd be great if we can have some actual numbers to this. And I've put in the chat just the two easiest ways to justify it. The first is from and there's this term called sustainable ROI, which is the ROI that measures the impact of not just your initiatives, but the environment. And the two easiest ways is to say, well, there are costs that will come up if you do not recycle. There are fines that you'll eventually get. There are penalties. Unfortunately, the government isn't levying them all that much. So really the cost is the potential of bad PR. Now, that's a pretty gray bucket right there. Like, what would it cost if somebody sees us throwing out bags of linens? There are retailers that have fallen under that. I forget who it was, Winners or somebody throws out their clothes and some passerby took a photo of the back alley and it became an issue. Now, it's stories like that, as they come up more and more, companies will fall in line and they'll have to do it. So that's the first area, and it's tough to put a number on that. So the second area would be the benefits of marketing and ways to say, here's one of our lead messages. We are environmentally friendly, and here's how. And certainly there are things that many companies can say. This is another feather in the cap. The third one that I didn't put in the chat, and we actually have a slide. Noel, would you mind sharing your screen once more? On that very last slide are the actual costs, the outlay of an item like masks. And here's the unfortunate thing about masks is none of us budgeted it for this year, right? All this PPE, the masks, the additional cleaning products, it wasn't a line item, and now it is. And so the question is, how big of a line item is it going to be? And there is this thought that if a disposable mask is $1 and reusable masks are, let's say, $5 to $20, it makes sense that we would think that reusable masks are more expensive, but the math doesn't work out like that. In fact, disposable masks can be 10 times as expensive. These are just the rough numbers that we drew up here. Disposable mask is $1. Maybe you can get them for 90 cents, 95, but let's say they're $1. That's $500 per employee. And we have a team of 10 here. The average spa has 18 employees. So you're looking anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 per year. That was not budgeted if you're using disposable masks. And I like how Noel started this presentation about the importance of 190 million masks in landfill. But a CFO isn't going to sign off on environmental initiatives. Now, a CFO might sign off on saying, okay, disposable masks can be 5 to 10 grand on our bottom line, but reusable masks are 1/10 of that. And this is just simple math again. If you can reuse a mask 50 times, and the ones that we provide, you can wash for 50 washes, that's only $500 a year per team, $50 per person. So that's the other, there's the third answer. To summarize, the first one is just the cost of bad PR. The second one is the benefit of good marketing. And then the third one is the actual bottom line. If you go the reusable route and you find masks that are, say, $5, which ours are, some are 10 or 20, but even then, if you get a $20 mask, it will eventually be cheaper than a $1 disposable.
I think that comes down again to just quality. It's in every area of our businesses, right? Not just masks, in every area of our businesses.
Yes. And it seems, again, from Anna, it seems as consumers are very much aware of carbon neutral initiatives, perhaps getting them onboarded can be a way to offset the cost.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. And Joanna, I think this is it's a need. It's clearly a need, on how to address or approach an initiative inside a company, inside a corporation, or a small day spa, even an independent right now. I'd love to work closer together with you on just guidelines. Right now, we're all really trying to figure it out. That's why it's not done. That's why it's not a turnkey project for anyone. So let's do this. Let's figure it out. And
I think so too.
Has the energy and the time to contribute.
Yes, I was just going to say, let's make a call to action right now. Anyone listening to this presentation, if you'd like to volunteer to be on a committee with Noel and myself, then we can try to brainstorm and work together to, bring this forward.
Amazing.
Great.
Yeah.
People are asking for the presentation so that we can share. They want to share it with their GMs.
Sure.
So we can do that. So Megan, so obviously this is being recorded, folks who are listening, and what we can do is we'll send out the recording of this webinar with your presentation to our entire database. Mm-hmm. So folks will be able to share that with, and we're getting several volunteers for our committee.
Love it.
Great.
That's amazing.
Yes.
That's what we need. We just need more people out there spearheading and helping to some awareness. Amazing.
Fully agree. All right. Look at that. We did something good today.
That's amazing. If anybody has any questions, you want to reach out to me personally, please don't hesitate. You can email me at noel@noelasmar.com. I'm really passionate about this. We started doing uniforms out of recycled plastic bottles. I think we're over 250,000 recycled bottles now we've recycled to make uniforms. And it's just the beginning. It's trying to understand listen, there's one thing that we always talk about internally. It's function, it's purpose, and it's our why. And you can't just do it because it seems like it's the right thing to do. It has to make fiscal sense for us. We're a B2B, we're running corporations, so it needs to make sense for operations. It can't all just sound good. So
Right.
it's really important to make it a meaningful step. And the way we do that is by understanding, what are your GMs looking like? What are their, why do they say no so quick to 65 cents a pound or 70 cents or 50 cents a pound? What will it take? And I think even we need a couple of GMs on a committee. We need to understand the psychology behind the barriers.
Yeah.
The world has spoken. Our little Greta has spoken. United Nations has spoken, but it's not enough. We're not taking action at the corporate level.
Right.
And I don't understand why. So.
Right. Yes, folks are supporting what you're saying. Jennifer Whalen Smith is saying we need the corporate spa people to be involved as well. Hyatt, Marriott, etc. I think we can do that, right? I'm confident that we can get some of those folks to do that. Yes, for sure.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for having me, Joanna, and with Andrew and Allison joining our team.
Oh my gosh, thank you for being here and for sharing this, and also for talking to this really, I think, very passionate group of people who want to advance this initiative. So thank you for coming today.
Thank you.
All right, Andrew, Allison, thank you so much for being here. All right.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Anybody else have any more questions before we sort of let them off the hook? Nope, lots of thank yous. All right, so if you volunteered, we will be in touch. And you will get the email with this recording and the presentation in the next few days. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Great
Thank
day.
you, everybody.
Thanks, Megan. Thanks, Joanna.